Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video on the West Ham Way YouTube channel. Benrahma, listen, he's been a player that's had a very up and down West Ham career. I think he's a player that has gotten a lot of stick, and at one point was in definitely a foot race with Pablo Fornals, and a lot of West Ham fans, myself included, were desperate to see him get a start over Pablo Fornals, get his flair, get his the directness that he shows when he runs at players. That was only a couple of years ago. At the moment, he's quite far away from the squad. I would say the way we play at the moment as well doesn't really necessarily suit his style, with us moving to a more midfield-based formation as opposed to wingers. So it's definitely looking like he may leave in January. And we're getting some information here that supposedly Saudi Arabia, the league, the clubs in Saudi Arabia are interested in Benrahma. Now, we've seen loads of Premier League stars and Premier League players get these Saudi moves, and a lot of them, you would say probably they're paying through the nose for. A lot of the time, the value of the players is being increased. And, basically Saudi Arabia are putting through offers that clubs simply cannot refuse. And apparently they're interested in Benrahma. Now, his agent is supposedly heavily linked with the Saudi League. He does quite a lot of offers there and represents a few players. Supposedly as well, David Moyes and Benrahma's agent have had some face-to-face meetings recently, probably due to lack of game time, probably, quite a few things. And as well, if there's some interest from Saudi Arabia, often if an agent wants to keep a player at the club or force the manager's hand, they will often say, look, we've got some interest from Saudi Arabia. We want to let you know if this doesn't change, i.e. Z, then look, we're going to probably look to move away. The player's not happy, blah, blah, blah. We've not heard much on the player front, and we're not too sure how the player feels at the moment, having not played a lot of minutes so far for West Ham this season. He's had some glimpses. He certainly has had some glimpses, but he's not a starter in the squad at the moment. And it looks, like I said, that we're moving away from this winger-based team that we used to have with Bowen and a left winger and a striker. We're looking to move away from that and maybe go for a more midfield-heavy based team, especially with Souček in good form, having to fit Souček, Alvarez, Ward-Prowse, Paqueta, all in the side. It's quite difficult, and sometimes we have to sacrifice midfielders. And also, David Moyes is probably at a point at the moment where he's got to decide, look, I can't promise Fornals this game time, I can't promise Cornet this game time, and I can't promise Benrahma this game time. So someone's going to have to leave, or maybe even two. And Pablo Fornals is also a player who we know is linked to a move back to Spain. So it might come down to David Moyes having to say, look, am I more fussed about losing Benrahma, or am I more fussed about losing Fornals? And it said that, despite the history between David Moyes and Benrahma, which I would say is not great. I'd say that when he's had a good performance, he doesn't necessarily praise him. He digs him out quite a lot. He's somebody that I wouldn't say David Moyes. He's not a David Moyes player. So I'm surprised to hear that supposedly David Moyes is not that keen to sell him at the moment. But, we paid, £25 million for him. It's likely, like I said, that a Saudi Arabia club are going to come in for him. And I would imagine they probably pay around the £25 million fee for the Algerian. Like I said, as we know, Moyes supposedly does not want to push Benrahma out, especially with Europe still coming around. Benrahma, he's 28 years of age. I think he's been at the club now for about 4 years. I think he signed for in 2020, around that sort of time. So, he was around 24 years old when he's here. He's 28 now. He should be in his absolute prime. And let's be fair, he's not really hit the ground running. He's played 146 times for the club. He's only scored 24 goals. For a winger, I don't think that's awful, I suppose. I don't think it's absolutely awful. But, is it really the return that we can be looking for at the moment? And like I say, especially with the fact that, how many games is he going to be able to get? Yes, in Europe, we need the cover, but we're now getting players like Mubama coming in. Cornet, I can imagine he's probably going to get pushed for a starting spot. And yes, injuries are coming in and stuff like that. But again, you've got Fornals, Benrahma and Cornet, who I would all say are in similar positions. They're players that haven't exactly hit the ground running. We're talking about this season, by the way. We're talking about this point in time. Maybe like 2 years ago, I would say selling Benrahma was a horrible choice. But, we've got Fornals, Benrahma, and Cornet, both in the positions of, we know that they're decent, but we're not entirely sure what they can bring to the table now with the squad being the way it is, with the way we play being the way it is. So, listen, I think this is a good move. I think that selling Benrahma is probably a good way to play. I think that I like the idea that we're going with at the moment, with having Paqueta in this sort of free roam role, Kudus on the right, maybe Bowen up top. It kind of looks like we are. It's really difficult to find the way we play at the moment because we play with so many midfielders. It's kind of not known whether we play with Paqueta at left wing, whether we play a 4-3-1-2 sort of situation where Kudus goes right, stays right, and then cuts in, and Bowen sort of does, it's quite hard to pinpoint how West Ham play at the moment. I think our base formation is probably 4-3-3, but considering the players that we put in the roles for that formation, I'd say that Fornals is a similar type of player to Lucas Paqueta in the sense that, Fornals is a passer. I don't see Paqueta very often driving forward and trying to beat a player. Don't get me wrong, like he's very good on the ball, but he could do it. But I think his role in the team is definitely like give me the ball, I'll progress us higher up the pitch, I'll make things happen, I'll be the maestro. Whereas Cornet and Benrahma are both very direct wingers. They like to run forward. They like to take a shot when the opportunity presents itself. They like to get in a much further position. Where we've seen Fornals as well, he likes to go a little bit more central. So I think Fornals is probably a better suited player for this formation. And then if you want a player who adds something different, you can't have Cornet and Benrahma. You have to have one or the other. And I'm pretty sure Cornet is younger. We paid less for him. And there's not a huge amount of interest about him at the moment. So I'm not surprised he's getting linked with the Saudi move, because I think he's the type of player, he's like a sort of a big name in the sense that a couple of years ago, he was seen as one of the wonder kids, a player that could make that step up to the Premier League and absolutely hit the ground running. Obviously, he hasn't done so, but he's the type of player that I think would excite a Saudi football in Saudi Arabian League. A player that, similar to like St. Maximan, a player that hasn't exactly, broken any records or something like that, but someone who you watch play football and think he has potential to excite a crowd. And I think that what the Saudi Arabian League is doing at the moment is they're trying to not only pick up big names, but exciting footballers, because, you see a clip of someone in the Saudi Arabian League beating a defender and scoring a great goal. You're going to watch it and you're going to think, oh, maybe it's worth watching them, when they play or something like that. So it's not surprising to me. And also, let's be fair, every single player would want to play there because nice, hot, sunny weather, rich country. You've got stars like Benzema, St. Maximan, Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, Neymar as well. You've got these massive stars playing there. You're going to get offered massive money. So from an agent point of view, there is absolutely no reason why you would turn your nose up at Saudi Arabia. And, from a player point of view, I think that's, as well as that, they probably are more in line with Benrahma's sort of, belief system, a bit more in line with probably what Benrahma grew up with as a kid. Obviously, they're two different places. Benrahma's from Africa, Algeria. You've got Saudi Arabia in the Middle East. So obviously they're not the same place, but they have quite similar ways of doing things in a way. Obviously, I'm not like a geographist I'm definitely not a geographist because that's not even the name for what it is, or a historian. But as far as I'm aware, Western English culture is quite far away from the sort of culture you would see in Africa, places like Algeria and places like the Middle East. So you can imagine that a move like this would feel not at home for Benrahma, but a bit more at home than, say, obviously living in England. And, he's been at the club for 4 years. He's been at the club a very long time. If we can recuperate, around what we paid for him, 25, 30 million pounds, I think that's pretty good considering he's aged 4 years in that time. He's done decent things for us. So, yeah, I think it's probably a good move for West Ham. I do think it will happen. I think that Moyes is probably inclined to sell players, especially as well. One thing we haven't spoken about is the fact that if we want to buy players in January, we are going to need to come up with the funds ourselves. I think that is a very key point here, in that players who are on the fringe, like Benrahma, they might have to be sacrificed to sign a striker or sign a left back or sign a midfielder whom we desperately need. So it's absolutely no surprise to me that this story's coming through. I do actually think it has a lot of credibility. I think it will probably happen, especially with the idea that West Ham do need to drum up some funds in January if we are to sign anybody. So Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think we should sell Said Benrahma? Should we be more inclined to sell Fornals? Do you think he will go to Saudi Arabia? What's your thoughts on Benrahma at his time at the club at the moment? And I'll see you on the next one.